Thank you very much, Mr. Subramaniam, for being with us this afternoon. For what is, as we've just heard in some of the earlier sessions, a very, very important subject of discussion, India at 100. Um, you belong to one of the companies which is clearly one of the jewels in the crown of the Tata Group, the storied conglomerate of this country, and which itself has a very, very important history, aligned with the history of this country. We will discuss some of these issues around technology, around the growth of technology, and how technology can actually power the India ambition. First off, Mr. Subramanian, I would like to get your views on how you think, today, after the pandemic in particular, digital transformation is no longer a good thing to do. You talk to any company, and we talk across the board, various sizes and shapes and, sectors. And the one thing which is common is digital transformation. So tell me, how are companies like yours actually wanting to take this story forward, and then we will come to bits and parts of that story.
Thank you, Sourav, for having me here. First of all, I wanted to compliment the previous panel, very power-packed, very invigorating. The pandemic has taught all businesses that digital is the only way to go. People who were there in the trendsetters or who were in the fence, they're all advancing the digital agenda by leaps and bounds, no doubt about it. And the great thing about the digital technologies is not just one technology, it's a suite of technologies, keep on coming, keep on evolving. And unlike the previous generation of technologies, each technology which comes in, it seems to be nicely integrating and interoperating with whatever is already there. So that is what driving the whole digital ecosystem. So coming back to TCS, what are we doing is we believe that 50 to 60% of what we are doing today need not be done by humans moving forward, which means that we need not write code the way that we are writing today. We need not design systems the way that we design systems today. So the whole aspect of cobots, the whole aspect of embracing a low-code, no-code platforms, we see the future as some kind of a domain computing. There are computers which will do telecom much better. There are computers which will do banking that better. But for example, the interest calculations and all, you don't have to code. It will be embedded into the hardware. The intelligence will be there. You just have to say that compute interest and pay it off. Right? So in that context, what will be the role of TCS? What will be the role of an IT professional? Is the thinking that we are developing. And it's going to be an all-pervasive intelligence, artificial or real, right? And I can't wait to see how that's going to look like.
That's a very important point you raised, Mr. Subramaniam, that the way we look at this whole aspect of digital transformation itself will change as we move along the next 25 years. Now, the other thing the pandemic has actually done is completely upend and change people's lives and the way we look at how we work. This whole future of work is a debate which is intrinsically linked with technology, with the advent of new technologies to make that happen. You at TCS are one of the largest employers in the business, and and it continues that way. We will come to some other aspects of that a little later in this discussion. But the basic point being that, how do you see this whole hybrid workforce? How do you see that? How are we looking at this social capital changing as we move to these new ways of working, and how does technology get into it?
I think the hybrid way of working in certain industries and certain roles of the organization is probably going to happen. It's already happening, and in our own company, we saw it coming, and we said that we are going to be moving to what we call as a 25 by 25 operating model, right? Which essentially means that it's enough if you are there 25% of your time in the offices, but you need to be there 25% of time in offices. And if 25% of our employees are at work, then we can make the whole 100% a lot more productive. I think that's also the belief that we developed. And we said the 25 by 25 operating model requires certain amount of change, both in terms of processes, compliance, regulations. For example, today, if somebody is working in Chennai or in Delhi, then there is a way of billing. There is a way of GST or VAT, or as it is applicable, or how do you comply with the SEZ and things like that. And likewise, if somebody is operating out of Mexico, there is a way of working. So all this will have to be settled in. So our intent is to see that, look, between now and 25, define all of this. And we already started to talk about what we call as a talent cloud. People are available, all of them, all over. The security aspect of it, not necessarily in the office, but every endpoint is the perimeter of the security today. Every computer, every laptop that's getting connected to our network is the security. So a lot of things have been done, but my view is that you got to figure out certain roles will have to be full-time in the office, certain roles will have to be in a hybrid way of working, and that is going to be certainly there. The social capital is very important because there is an aspect of business which is not business, even in our client relationships. In a Zoom meeting, you go and then you stick to the agenda, and then nobody talks about anything else. But when you go and have a face-to-face meeting, there are a lot of things that you discuss, which we build the social capital. In the pandemic, I think we have started to deplete the social capital and leverage the social capital to thrive and survive. And the onus is on all of us to actually rebuild that social capital. In that sense, some of us will have to work not 100%, 120%, in the coming years.
Aligned to that thought, Mr. Subramaniam, is a discussion. I have spoken to some leading technology companies where there is this whole debate where, while a section of people would not want to come to work and they feel, come to office and want to work from, remotely, there is also this need, like we just discussed, of people also having an interaction. So both the needs, actually, there are surveys which have actually come out with these findings that both these things coexist. So while I may want to work remotely, I also want that physical interaction with my colleague. How does technology take care of this? And what is the way forward?
I think if I'm from an old school of thought, so I kind of believe that we all built our careers looking at role models, looking at people, seniors who are mentored, and how they built their careers, how they would have handled those situations.
And that can't be on a screen.
That can't be on a screen. So that's something that is there. But at the same time, there are companies who have come up in the last 5-10 years which do not have an office, right? That's very interesting, fascinating model, right? So you have to study that and you have to understand how does that work? How do they build their culture within the company? We have to learn from it. And we have to probably, in our situation, we have to, ours is a highly people-intensive business. So in that sense that the truth is probably somewhere in the middle and probably it's in the reverse, right? So we have to learn there. I don't have an answer for this, but we are moving into a model where people have to be physically show up at least 25% of our time. And that's important for us, at least for the current school of thought, right? Unless and until, we are also looking at how do we break the company into several small companies. And there are potentially this type of businesses that we are doing completely remotely, they can work. This type of businesses where I'm going to work for Reserve Bank of India or State Bank of India, they would need these people to be there on this side. So, it's a mix and match that we'll have to do, but certainly we have to go through a learning from the companies who are 100% remote, established as 100% remote in the last 4 years, and how they are building their products, how they are building their services, what kind of culture that they are building, what is the employee satisfaction there, how the employees are able to relate to each other. These are big questions that we have to learn.
So far, what has been your experience on this front? I mean, because culture is something you cannot again impart on a screen. Ideally, you would need to be, have a physical interaction in person. So, how does
It's,
an organization move forward in such a scenario?
I'm fairly a positive person, so I think the very positive, right? There are times where 99 to 100% of our employees were working remotely. So when I met somebody in the airport lounge about 6 7 months ago, he asked, how do you make $1 billion profit in this quarter without anybody coming to work? It was very hard. In that sense that, you feel very positive about it, you have to give it to them. No doubt about it. And the processes are great. It's working very well. Right. But when you see that, look, we hired about 100,000 people last year. About 25,000 of them joined TCS remotely, working remotely without even taking the ID card, without seeing a TCS office. Have also chosen to leave this year, right, for in like such of another job, right? When you look at that, I feel sad, right? I'm sure that if had they been in a face-to-face interaction, they would have valued TCS a lot better than working remotely, because they just, for their mind is that, look, I'm seeing somebody in the screen. That's all, right?
Very true. Uh, we'll also alongside this discussion is also this whole point about the new technologies which have developed. Now, as one of the foremost companies in the technology space, AI, ML, how are you and how is the tech sector, you think, moving forward to capitalize these new trends, emerging technologies which are coming forward?
I think there are see, everything that we do will have to be reimagined all the time, right? Which we do continuously. When I see what's happening around me, there are three or four things. One is that advanced connectivity, whether it is you attribute it to 5G, 6G, private networks, or what broadcast, broadband convergence, all of that. That's going to make telecom as a horizontal to every other vertical. That's one thing that we are realizing. So advanced connectivity is a big thing. The second thing is security. People are paranoid about security, and there are security products and services which keeps on coming every day. New ones are coming, and new threats are emerging. The third one is privacy. We are all paranoid about how my information is getting used somewhere else. So everything that we do today have to be reimagined for connectivity, which is advanced, security and privacy. And then in that span, how do I create a better experience for employees? How do I create a better experience for our customers and solutions and things like that? And as we get more and more connected, everything is going to become invisible. Banking will become invisible. You'll see branches everywhere, but at the time where I want to buy something or sell something or any barter that takes place, my bank need to see invisibly present there so that they can capture my business. If or whoever is there in that at that time, I will have to deal with them. I may not do that because I have a loyalty. My son, I don't think he cares so much about loyalty. Whoever is there, whoever is the best one, that he will go and do the business. So I think financial services, for example, or retail, for example, everything will become invisible, because at the time you define what you are trying to do, you need to make yourself physically or digitally present. So the invisibility will happen. And the last one is it's going to be AI and intelligence pervasive. And we need to be smarter. We need to be able to understand what does that mean to us. And we are all using that in one way or the other. We are using technology. Restaurants near me or anything that we want to do. Today we are using technology for everything. So I think that will be more and more of it.
You mentioned privacy and you mentioned data security. In all this, there is a huge opportunity for tech companies in terms of in terms of cloud computing. We talk about multi-cloud solutions as well. How do you think these two, sort of will converge? Privacy and data security as with cloud computing.
It has been proven beyond doubt that just because you are having your computing capacity in a room data center, and I have the most sophisticated access mechanism, I have the keys in my pocket, you can't consider that that is secured. Right? I think people have believed that by putting more and more on cloud, it has become probably a lot more secure. And at the same time, it has become a shareable asset, whether it's infrastructure, applications, data, everything when it is on cloud, it has become a shareable asset. And people have started to leverage that shareable asset from wherever they are. Right? So it has created a situation where we are able to interconnect with the ecosystem that which we are operating, whether it's in the supply side or on the demand side. And we are able to harness the data and the intelligence around it to take real-time decisions pretty quickly, right? And instantaneously. And whether it's our suppliers or our customers, we are able to provide today an instantaneous, intuitive, and interactive experience. Thanks to all this technology, because it's on cloud. And thanks to analytics, data, insights, and algorithms, that we are able to provide that intuitiveness, interactiveness, and instantaneous. You will see more and more of it. If you think that, look, what we are already seeing is great, you have not seen anything yet.
Mr. Subramaniam, TCS is one company which has actually moved up the value chain dramatically from being a services company to a product company and now a consulting. The consulting, it's almost a consulting firm in every sense of the word today. Is that the journey you see Indian technology companies taking as they move up the value chain? How do you see this, this whole journey from services to consulting playing out in the Indian tech sector?
There are interesting anecdotes that, look, I was in US in late 80s. I was a programmer and assigned to one of the largest Wall Street firms. I was working in the basement. My office was probably this size, the table size. My batchmate was joined a product company. And he happened to install his product in that same bank. He was operating in the 51st floor. He had an office which is huge. And both from the same pedigree, right? So I just looked at him and then said, look, what the hell is this, right? So when I came back, I told Mr. Ramdurai, I said, look, why are we not developing products? Because for them, I'm a software programmer. I'm a coder, right? But we do enormous amount of value addition. We are great at what we are doing. And we continue to be great at that. But then for their mind of them, oh, he's a product consultant, right? Same 3-4 years of experience, right? So then, that instilled in us that, okay, we need to develop products. And products is something that we felt that, look, it's a means of consolidating the knowledge base that we have acquired. And we are able to articulate that knowledge base better, number one. Number two is that it brings in certain amount of non-linearity to our business. And the third is that when you go and install the product, it creates a customer lock-in and stickiness because they use the product for 10 years, 15 years easily. So what we started in early 1990s, today it has grown to be a few billion-dollar business for us with about almost 600 institutions using our products beyond the services. So I think it's a good natural evolution from services to products to consulting. And the value chain is growth. You call it value chain growth or you call it staying relevant to customers. That's a natural journey. The expectations are always there from the customers. And we ran a painting competition for the school kids recently. The title was India 2050. How you see it? It's targeted about 5th standard, 6th standard. Some of them are 4th standard kids. The one which won, one of the things that, I don't know it won, but I saw that painting that it said that, look, there are aliens coming and working with people, doing business on one side, carrying a AK-47 and fighting with each other on the other side. And then I saw that, look, there is something which goes, a network, or a communication link which said that TCS exporting software to Mars. So the aspirations are there. And if that's the aspiration of the 5th standard kid, I think India is in safe hands.
But the AK-47 is a bit
that's
of a
the
concern.
worry. So you don't get you don't have the cake and eat it too all the time.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. The other point here is as we move to the next 25 years, Mr. Subramaniam, I mean, you have, as I said earlier, you are one of the largest employers. There is a huge element of, one part of the tech story is this whole attrition, and you're on record as in earlier places as having said that you're looking at that is a concern in terms of margins, etc. The other point, first of all, do you see that as a concern as you continue to, sort of compete for talent with the best in the business? That's one. And number two is the issue which has now become a big debate of moonlighting. I mean, there are two sides of the debate. Whereas, some people feel that what you do outside of your work is not something which needs to be worried about, and at the other side you have somebody very important, like the Wipro boss saying that it is cheating. So we will come to the second part, but I want your thoughts first on this whole point about how you sort of want to do this.
No, talent is, if you look at it as a war, it's a war. And business is all about operating within the constraints. Right? The talent war happened because of two important reasons from my perspective. During the pandemic, almost 90% of the enterprises did not hire. Few organizations like TCS, we went and honored everything, and then we kept hiring, built the bench, and then put this across. And pandemic taught everybody that digital is the important thing. So everybody wanted to advance the digital agenda. So they needed the people, and the pandemic gave way for economic growth. When that happened, everybody started to go and hire. Suddenly, 90% of the corporations which did not hire wanted to hire a trained talent. Then the only way that they can do it is come to wherever the talent is. Right? And that created an enormous amount of demand and supply side mismatch for talent. Right? And that's why you saw all this happening. Right? And my own feeling is that it will stabilize in a quarter or so, because my interactions with clients, most of them feel that they've got their core talent that they wanted. Right? So that's the one thing. Second is that India as a country, I think the previous panel also talked about it, abundance of talent is definitely there. And you got to hire them, and IT industry kind of took it on ourselves to train the talent and hold ourselves accountable for the talent that we need. That's why we succeeded. And we are continuing to do that. And so, we are confident that talent and supply side is not a problem for us. Yes, there will be short-term aberrations, and we'll have to find out. So whether someone else can do the heavy lifting, right? In that context, right? Moonlighting, we have to. It's an ethical issue, right? So we need to inculcate that ethics and being right. And if you make something like this for short-term gains, in the long term you will lose out, right? And that kind of a message has to go to employees. And we have, when we come across that somebody having a 2 PF accounts, then we have to go and tell the government, why are you opening 2 PF accounts? So we have to figure out a way to prevent some of this. But more and more, I think, the people have to be told and educated about the value systems, ethics, how we have grown this business built by brick. Please don't shoot yourself in our feet.
And as the global slowdown sort of takes a firm grip, you don't see that sort of taking a toll on the IT sector and TCS in particular in terms of the value of deals, the number of deals? How do you see that panning out?
No, there'll always be headlines. There'll always be, headwinds. As I said, look, you have to take it and then keep it aside. And then, because that's for the customers to worry about, number one. That's for the economists to worry about. For us, quickly look at in each market, each customer that we are operating in, are there any subtle moves that they are making? Are they pulling projects away from us or cancelling projects? And have a frank conversation with them. Look, we see this war situation, we see this recession talk that's going on. Are you going to slow down on any of the commitments that you've already made to us? That's the first thing. And the comment that we are getting is that no, all these are important strategic projects. We are not going to do this, and we are making money. Most customers, when you look at it, we are making money, so investments are secured. We are going to do this. Second is the pipeline of deals that we are operating. That's another indicator that we have to constantly watch. Is it our book to bill is something like 1.2, 1.3x? If it is there, then that's better than the average that we have had for the last 5 years. So many indicators are looking good. We have no concern per se from what I see. But, these are quarter se, quarter tak.
That's right. Finally, Mr. Subramaniam, what are the top 3 trends, a technology company like you and somebody at the helm of it like yourself, what are the top 3 trends you see as India moves to the next 25?
I think, there are the advanced connectivity. I think that's a very important trend that we have to pick up and run with it. The element of transparency is going to come very, very heavily. Right? There are different technologies we have to employ for that. What I'm saying is, people talked about fisheries in the previous panel. From Andhra, one of the things that is that the shrimps, which are getting exported to Europe, that's one of the largest exporters, I understand. But European Union demands that what kind of feed that went in. What kind of, if you administered any antibiotics, then we want to know what is the source of the antibiotic. If you are putting a feed, what is the source of the whole thing? So which essentially means that, look, you got to, if you're running a fishery, then what feed that you are using, from where you come up, what is the composition of that, what is the batch number of that, and what is the quality control of that. All of that from the source, you have to put it in. Everything has to be available in the barcode or the QR code. When at the source of entry, they would like to check and make sure that this is all foolproof. That's going to come in every walk of life. So the element of transparency and what you are trying to do, you have to be a lot more accountable in what you are delivering as an outcome, whether it is a software, whether it is any other product. So in that sense, that the technology that you want to put in place have to be enabling all of this, right? Whether it is fisheries or cashew nuts. We have developed a blockchain-related solution to really cater to some of these fisheries to do that. Right? So I think many technologies going to come. Quantum is another one. Quantum computing or quantum security is another one. So all these have to be essentially make it meaningful from a perspective of connectivity, security, privacy, and transparency.
Mr. Subramaniam, we could have gone on. This has been a fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for speaking to us. And
thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share, and subscribe.